Garcia. I'm a production sound mixer for Softstick Sound in Atlanta, Georgia. So Zoom recently discontinued their F8n, which paves the way for the F8n Pro, which we've been waiting for a while. And since my daily drivers are the F6 and the F8n, this is a huge improvement for me. So now the Pro has 2 analog to digital converters per channel, allowing for the same wide dynamic range they achieved on the F6. But every time Zoom releases a new product, they usually take the opportunity to roll out new firmware updates. Now, my background is in software development, so I'm trying to focus on the littlest changes that can make the biggest difference for mixers that use these devices every day. So starting with the Bluetooth app, there's a bunch of lockouts that are implemented as soon as you connect to the app. For instance, formatting your SD card is locked out as soon as you're connected, which kind of makes sense. You don't want to have that easily accessible. However, if I'm setting up time code, for instance, if I use Bluetooth to sync my time code to time of day, I'll have to disconnect again just to format my cards before we start for the day, which is fine. It's just a change in workflow in that case. However, the biggest problem with these lockouts is the PFL shortcuts. All of the PFL shortcuts are inaccessible, both on the F6 and the F8 if you have the Bluetooth app connected. I understand there's a conflict when you have 2 methods of accessing the same settings. However, I'm still able to use the faders on both the mixer and the app, so I don't see why I shouldn't be able to access the rest of the menus. And there should never be an instance where I have to reach into my back pocket just to solo a track. At the very least, I'd like to have a lockout option on the app. So on the F-Control Surface, when you have that connected, the iOS app will just act like a secondary display. So you can still access all the PFL menus from both the mixer or the control surface, while the iOS app is locked out. If there was any way I could just use the app to name the scenes and nothing else, I'd be happy with that. Now, I'm 90% sure that they could implement this with a software change, because you're still able to access the PFL menus when you have both the F-Control Surface and the F-Control app connected. And while we're on the subject of the F-Control Surface, that's actually what's next on my wish list. So the F-Control Surface, the FRC8, was created for a 24-bit environment. You can see next to the faders that it maxes out at +12, while I believe the F6 goes to +75. So while in 32-bit mode on the F6, the control surface faders are generally useless, especially since you have to match the digital value before you can take control. So really the F-Control is just a bank of hotkeys until you switch it over to 24-bit. Then you have real access to your trim pots and your faders, which is great, but now you've lost that wide dynamic range. But there is a workaround for it. You can record in both 24 and 32-bit, but now you have copies of all of your isolated tracks. Usually I'll have to explain this in my sound report to post, but it's kind of a messy way to hand off deliverables on production day. If Zoom absolutely has to create a whole new control surface, then fine, I'll buy it. However, I'd be happy to tape over the decibel reference marks on the control surface if I can have full digital control over the entire dynamic range. And I know the attenuators are digital, so this shouldn't be a problem for them to implement in software. I think the last little change I'd love to have would be a mic line switchable main out. So if the mains had mic level outputs, I could send those to the director and script supervisor. That would leave me both sub outputs to send a stereo feed to my boom operator. Now there's a bunch more changes that Zoom could make, like allowing DSP profiles for the headphone output. However, I want to just keep it to the most likely scenarios. If you have any questions for me regarding the Zoom F-Series recorders, my information is on our website at softsticksound.org.